Hello, today is Tuesday, December 3rd, and we are going to be talking about pre-Civil War information and who should win the war, basically based on the statistics and the information we have about the two sides. So the vocab word today is Confederacy. We've heard this word before. This is the southern side in the Civil War. It's the Confederate States of America, the CSA, and it's the 11 states that seceded from the Union is what we're looking at here. So think about some random connection. Where have you heard this before? How have you heard it? Our target, explain which side you feel should have won the Civil War and why, based on our pre-Civil War information. And part of that target will be answered right here with the strengths and weaknesses of the North and South. So this will be in Schoology in our purple folder, but this is a Civil War and Reconstruction introduction. Write this down in your notebook. This is your starting for a new page, a new unit. This unit will take us until Christmas break. And then what we're going to start with is creating some T-charts that show the strengths and weaknesses of the North and South. And to identify these, I want you to write these two down in your notebook, and then I want you to go to chapter 21, section 2 of your textbook, and I want you to read this beginning part where it says North versus South all the way to the end of this section. And this top part really focuses on the strengths and weaknesses of the North and South. So after you read it, I want you to jot down several things that describe the strengths and weaknesses of each side. You should have a couple for each. Probably more strengths north and more weaknesses south, and a couple in these two middle columns. So go ahead and pause this video and do that right now. When you're done with that and you've unpaused me, then the next thing you're going to do is go to Schoology and you're going to find this worksheet as soon as it pops up, hopefully, entitled Strengths and Weaknesses of the North and South. And I want you to just identify, so first of all, determine which side is being talked about. Had a population of 22 million. Which side had the larger population? Our reading told us that the 22 million was the North. Now, having a population of 22 million, is that a strength or a weakness? And I would say it's a strength of the North, so you're just going to put an X right there. And then you're going to go on throughout the rest of it. You don't have to, like if it's a strength in the North, that means it's probably a weakness in the South. You don't have to do the opposite. Just find out which one is it talking about, and then is that a strength or weakness? When you're all done with that, I will later today post a key for this underneath it in Schoology so you can see how you did, but do definitely do this without the key first. See if you got it. Like I just wanted to, this is a check of our understanding of what we read. So that's the strengths and weaknesses. And then the last thing we're going to do is there are two videos, mini biographies on the two leaders, Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. Our book commented that Abraham Lincoln was a strength of the North because he was tireless in his efforts to keep the United States together. He never felt that the South had the right to secede, that we were all a union, and his goal, his job was to keep us together. Jefferson Davis is the leader of the Confederate States of America. He's in fact the only leader of the Confederate States of America. He was the only elected president. And for each of these, as you watch the biography, just jot down a couple of things that describe each of these men, some descriptors about them, some struggles they had, their political experience. Try to find 3 or 4 things to describe each. And I'll put these mini biographies also in Schoology as well underneath this video, Civil War and Reconstruction Introduction, underneath this slideshow. And then finally, some classes we got to this and some we didn't, but this is the Anaconda Plan. This was this North and South strategy to winning the Civil War. And so this represents, Scott is the general, Winfield Scott is the general of the Union, the North, at the beginning, and this was his plan. And so it had actually 3 parts to it. So when you look at this, think about what you notice. This is a snake. You're noticing where it's at. It's around the south and out over here and coming down through here. So there were actually 3 steps to this strategy. And the first was to create a blockade. So step one, to blockade the south. A blockade means that you cut off, you're blocking. So putting ships around here to stop the south from getting their ships out to get supplies or to sell their cotton. That was step one. Step two was right here, this part of the snake was to capture and divide the South into two parts along the Mississippi River. And then step three was to capture Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederate States. Capture a capital, and many times it demoralizes and causes people to want to stop fighting. And so that would be step three. Now, the Southern strategy, then, on the other hand, is a little different. And so this comes from, you can see it comes from this book, The Battle Cry of Freedom by James McPherson. And I want you to pause this and read this to yourself and see if you can figure out what the strategy is. Okay, hopefully you paused me. But I have highlighted here the word offensive defensive strategy. This consists of defending the Confederacy by using interior lines of communication. So they're primarily defending it from attack, and invading armies. So defending it from the north coming down into the south. And so mostly a defensive war, and then a little bit of offensive by attacking, possibly as they did like in Gettysburg, going into Pennsylvania, into the north. But primarily, the South is just going to play a defensive war. Come and get us if you want. We'll just keep fighting. We won't stop. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And you got to stop us because we're saying we're independent and you're saying we're not. So the North had a three strategy plan, and they had to go down to the South and take them on there and capture Richmond, set up the blockade, and capture the Mississippi River. The South, on the other hand, just had to keep fighting, just not stop fighting, just stay in their own territory, make the North come to them. They're very much using the strategy used in the Revolutionary War that the colonists used to fight against the British. We're here. We want to be independent. You got to stop us because otherwise we're going to do what we want. And it worked for the colonists in the Revolutionary War. The South thinks it'll work for them as well. So that's a quick summary of what we did today. Make sure you read this section to understand the strengths and weaknesses, and then watch those videos, and then just make sure you understand the two plans and put that in your notebook. All right, that sounds great. If you have any questions, let me know. Tomorrow's the Guthrie. We hope to see you there.